So, welcome to the Helix webinar series. Today's session is on AI Ops Insight to Action, Business Service Management Made Easy. Joining myself and Yaron, for those that have already joined some of our previous sessions, we have a pleasure of having Francois Segas, product manager, Blue Turtle, that's going to be speaking through his slides and presentation today. We're also joined by Matt Lammy and Mike Yates that will be answering some of your questions. So if you do have any during the presentation and demo, please put them into the Q&A section of Zoom. You'll see that at the bottom. Until that time, you will remain muted because we've got a lot to cover today. So with that, I'm going to now hand over to Yaron, who's going to get us started.
Thank you, Sam. So first of all, welcome everybody for joining our webinar today. We have a really exciting session today with Francois, who is with one of our partners, and he's going to talk about why business services are important and how we can make it easier to define business services and use them. Now, to understand where business services come into the picture, I just want to give everybody like a 5 minute recap of what we do with AI ops and how business services and how business context plays into it. So at the end of the day, what we give, what IT departments provide organizations are digital services. And that can be any kind of service that involves IT systems. And as we all know, that's most of the services and most of the systems that you have today or services that companies provide are digital services. Now, these digital services, they generate a lot of information anywhere from topology to metrics to logs to traces, anything else, including incidents, network data, knowledge articles. They all come from all of these digital services, and they could be dozens and hundreds. And sometimes with some of our customers, we see that they have hundreds of different digital services that they provide. And the thing is that all of this information is often siloed. It comes from multiple tools. And worst, it has no context. So it's sometimes very, very difficult. And you can see this here. It's very difficult to attribute all of this information to the right digital service. And if you look at a service, what it looks like, a digital service could look convoluted. I mean, can look very difficult to understand, and it has different connections from different services, all the way from the service to the application, infrastructure, and network, and the tools that monitor them. And at the end of the day, all that information gets fed into IT operations where you've got your NOC, and more often than not, you also have your SMEs. And because the information is lacking that context and it's coming from multiple tools and it's siloed, that can create frequent failures. Problems are slow to resolve, and you've got your SME sitting in war rooms all day with the knock trying to solve these issues. And the impact on your business at the end of the day is that you're providing poor service. So service is not at the levels that you want. You get unhappy customers. You're not innovating because you got your SMEs right here sitting down with your knock all day. You're wasting resources, and there's always a skills gap. So to solve these problems, because they're coming in from different sources and have no context, they're hard to resolve. So you need more and more trained people sitting and fixing these problems. So how do we fix this in AI ops, and why is the service context, why are business services so important? Well, with BMC Helix AI Ops, or with AI Ops in general, we're able to put a layer between all of this information generated from all of these business services, and we can feed the information into IT operation with service context. We're able to summarize events into situations. So, on average, we hear from a lot of our customers that a single incident or a single failure can generate upwards of 3,000 different events. So we're able to summarize that into situations and offer things like BAR, which is best action recommendations, which is AI-driven recommendations of how to solve problems, and the generative AI interface. So being able to give all that with a service context and with the business services defined and understood by the system, we're able to improve the service reliability, reduce the time to resolution, and prevent incidents and improve efficiency and able to prevent incidents even before they happen. And the business impact is that now your SMEs are involved in innovation instead of sitting and trying to solve problems all day. And you get happier customers, you get more innovation, you cut costs, and IT is perceived as driving business instead of being an inhibitor of business. So where does all this sit? So when is the right time and what is the right context to defining service models? So if you look at kind of the subway map of, you're here before you start working on AI ops and implementing AI ops. So you want to first crawl, then walk, then run to get all of these benefits. And the thing is, you get benefits from day one. So the first thing you want to do is you want to get the data in. Really important. Anybody who's worked with AI and AI ops are no different. The quality of the outcomes that you're going to get from AI ops or honestly any AI model is related and one-to-one correlated with the depth and the breadth of the information you feed it. So you want to get all the information in. Then you want to reduce the noise. But then at a really pivotal point over here, this subway stop over here, and you can't get to the next stop, not on this route and not on this route, without going through this first, is you need service context. That is crucial. That is critical. And that's what Francois is going to be introducing to us today. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Francois to tell us how we can make it easy to build service context to go on our journey to AI ops. With that, over to you, Francois.
Yaron, thank you very much, and thanks for the opportunity to be able to be with you guys on the webinar today. And yeah, it's first I want to just give BMC credit for looking at where you guys have grown over the last couple of years, and as a partner, we're proud to be partnered with BMC to run this journey to incorporate AI ops with organizations. Um, And what I just want to briefly give an overview of is who Blue Turtle is. We're a South African and Africa-based organization, and a partner of BMC for since I think it's about 20 years now. I've been in the BMC space since version 1.2 of Remedy in the old days, and I've come a long way to see how everything grew to the point of enabling agentic agents within the Helix platform. And I think it's important, from a Blue Turtle perspective, just briefly, I want to run into the Helix platform and what we have to offer. And I'm putting on my BMC hat today. But as Blue Turtle, we support various disciplines within endpoint management, infrastructure management, security, identity management, DevOps, IT spend, and cyber risk. So from a security perspective, and then obviously automation and orchestration, where Control M fits in. And mainframe solutions. Artificial intelligence is what I'm running within Blue Turtle at the moment, and therefore my positioning around AI Ops today on the webinar. Enterprise service management, mainframe, as I mentioned, TechFin, and managed services that we deliver as Blue Turtle. One key aspect that I think is very important coming into AI Ops at the back end is field service management, and obviously field service management playing a big role within order fulfillment. And we've got a unique player as Blue Turtle on the Helix platform to support field service management when teams needs to go out into the field and then optimize their route, etc. So that's in a nutshell, high-level view of what we do as Blue Turtle. Now, if we move into what Yaron mentioned, the service context piece of the tunnels, The first thing that we need to understand is what is business service management? And over the last couple of years, it's almost like business service management faded away as a practice that sits within enterprise service management. And just in a nutshell, it's overseeing IT services from the perspective of the business functions they support. And when we talk about business functions and business services in this context, um, we talk about the end-to-end service that business are delivering to a customer. And I'm going to delve into a little bit more in depth in that because a business service consists of a service model, a service definition, and I'll explain that to you as well. Now, typically, it consists, as I mentioned, it consists of technical services, applications, business applications, and then obviously where we as BMC support the auto discovery of these service models in a dynamic way becomes very critical, and I'll showcase that to you on the demonstration as well. Just a couple of questions I would like to ask on the webinar is some of the challenges that organizations are facing, and some of these might resonate with yourself, is how do you do it today? How do you do your business definitions before those definitions and those services gets deployed within your organization? The reason for that is that it needs to be supported by a support structure. I can't release a service that my business wants to sell to a customer, and I don't have the support structure at the back end. And that's something that our ops also makes easy today, because with the agentic nature of agents being embedded in the solutions, it becomes critical that those agents are now starting to work for you. You don't need to um, get a support agent to fulfill some of those capabilities. Then, do you have business services defined? I think a lot of organizations, and from a maturity perspective, what we also advise and recommend is that don't start with a full bang. Start with your top 3 critical services initially, and then mature into growing that footprint on AI ops. And the reason for that is that you can't tackle an elephant. You need to, when you eat it, you have to do it bit by bit, right? And yeah, that's something that I normally use as an analogy. It's a big beast. You need to start small. And then do you struggle to operate in a hybrid environment where you do not have a unified view across environments? And that's what we also bring to the table, is that we give you that consolidated view, everything in one place, seamlessly working together. And when I talk about seamlessly, you will notice on the demonstration that the seamless nature of these solutions, like discovery, working with AI ops, working with monitoring, ingesting the sources that Yaron mentioned, becomes critical, and all of that is seamlessly integrated with each other. Do you struggle to make sense of the magnitude of data and do not have a unified view of impact on a service? Again, as I will show, is that when we identify situations within our AIOps solution, it allows you to become very proactive in identifying probable root cause. Does your security and governance teams have visibility of the business services your operation team support and who is supporting them? In most instances, they don't, because they don't use these solutions. They've got their own security solutions, and what we now bring is that visibility and and allowing those teams to converge on these platforms. And BMC Helix as a platform, again, I want to iterate, it's a platform, right? And you'll see as I navigate through the demo how easy it is to onboard it as a solution. Something that I want to focus on specifically is the onboarding of a business service. Now, when we look at the onboarding of a business service, it's got various building blocks, right? And we'll go into those building blocks and artifacts that supports that overall service model. There is the automatic discovery of the service model to a certain level, and then linking that model to what the business offered to the customer becomes critical, because before that and I'll explain some examples that happened over the last couple of years. Before that service goes down, you would like to know before that thing goes down, right? Because otherwise you're going to spend a lot of money, you're going to have revenue loss, and so forth. And then lastly, which is very important, is as part of your service onboarding process, there is a business approval that needs to be taken into consideration. And the reason for that is that I can't, as I mentioned, I can't release a service that needs to be delivered to a customer if I don't know that I've got the right support for that. Do I have the right monitoring that's going to monitor the service from end to end? And all of this brings me to what I define as the business service definition. And that's critical to the onboarding of business services and the modeling of that. And that's basically allowing and enabling organizations to incorporate a more structured approach to business service onboarding. Then the next stage, once you've looked at that, is provisioning of that service. And how do you create that service in a very easy way within the solution? Now, service provisioning, in my view, is when I define the business services, the technical service that's linked to that service, the business application services that supports that technical service, and all of this can become very complex, or it can be very simple. And what you'll notice over here is that we've got one major business service, and I'll show you. I created a media service on the solution on our demo environment, and that consists of multiple technical services, application services, and these things are not always discoverable, right? A business service is something that's been defined within the organization. It's like when you go to a restaurant and you've got a menu, the items that's on that menu was defined by someone and it was approved by someone to be on that menu. And that menu consists of a chef at the back, consists of people that needs to fry the onions, etc. So there's a whole set of artifacts that supports that service. All right, just a couple of examples that I want to put down from a banking perspective, business services, just so that you guys can relate. And it obviously depends in what industry you are in, whether you're in manufacturing, banking, insurance, or whatever. Online banking service availability, that's a typical service that you will create within the solution, and that will be supported by a model at the back that will dynamically scale once you've got your service definition defined. Loan origination process, fraud detection and prevention, that can be a business service, or banking system health. It's critical that the core banking processes are linked to this model, because if there's a failure within that process, you would like to know upfront, right? And then obviously a regulatory reporting as another example. Now, when I spoke about some examples, and just to give you a brief understanding of revenue loss over the last couple of years. If we look at Delta Airlines, they had that CrowdStrike widespread system crash, which cost them like 550 odd million estimated revenue. And obviously there's legal actions behind that. Apart from the financial loss, legal action is also going to cost you money. So all of these things at the end of the day brings benefit to you to implement AIOps as a solution, because now you start to be proactive in your application of identifying probable cause. Then to ask the question, how do we do it? Now, as I mentioned, as Blue Turtle and with our customers, we have created a onboarding process from a business service perspective. We define the artifacts and templates that goes along with that. But the templates allows me to submit that template to the business. The business must then tick the boxes in that template and fill in the definition. So business then helps me to define, and they are involved in that whole process to define that model. And that's critical, because at the end of the day, you've got vested interest from business to do that. All right, let me go over to the demo. I'm just going to quickly switch over to the demonstration. All right, so what you see over here is basically where we look at service monitoring. And what I mentioned earlier was about the business service structure and how we create that. Um, Now, if we go to configurations and we go to service blueprints, this is an item that we see is allowing me to easily link a blueprint to a business service when we create a business service. Now, I'll explain that in a little bit more in detail. When we navigate to services and I create a service, the first thing that you'll see over here is a new business service that I create, right? Just exit. I can give that business service a name. I'm just going to say, let's say, core banking 2. And I'm showing you how easy it is. And over here, you can select whether it's a business service, technical service, or a business application. I'll keep it as a business service because that's the first tier within my hierarchy. I can say, is it very high? Does it have a criticality of high, low, or very low? I'll say very high because this is going to be a core banking service that's critical to my banking organization. And I've got other attributes that I can also set. I can then save and close that core banking business service. Now I want to go and create a child service. I then give this a technical service kind. This is the kind of service that I'm creating. I say this is technical. I'm just giving it teachers' names at the moment. Technical service 1, save it. I want to create another child service, which is another technical service. Service 2, I save that. And you'll see how easy it is to start building that model that I explained to you guys earlier. As part of my technical service, I also want to say, okay, that technical service consists of a business application. I can now go in here and say it's kind business application. I say it's business application 1. And it's a one-to-many relationship, right? So I can, again, if I see, okay, my business department that's involved in building this, they can be part of you when you build this, right? And you can use your template that you provided to them and start building it from that template that they helped you to build. All right, so now I've created my structure. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I can add more technical services and business applications to this. I save that. And now what I can do is you'll notice that when I go to my services monitor, you'll see that I've got core banking over here. And I've got core banking. One of these should be technical services 1, business applications 1 and 2. But over here, let me just go back to my. Where is it now? Apologies. Let me just navigate back to services. What I would like to do is I want to go to the service blueprints and I want to link my service blueprint to my service. And just a little bit of explanation of what a service blueprint is. Now, when we look at a blueprint for AppDynamics, this example, these are all the out-of-the-box blueprints that BMC offer. So I don't have to go and create a blueprint. Now, a blueprint is like a business service template that I can use. And this, when Discovery goes out and discover the model within your environment, it will automatically update this blueprint that you link to your service. And as things changes within your environment, it dynamically updates your service. And on the service monitor, it will show you the events and the metrics that that feeds into the service console. Just to quickly see where just edit the service. Where is that now? Waiting for this to load. I want to go to my service that I've created and just edit it. I think my permissions is now causing me not to edit. You should see, yeah, over here, I want to edit my service. And now I want to go and where is that now? So I just have to go back to my blueprints and see if I can view a blueprint. Okay, so this is basically my blueprint. Okay, I'll have a look now where I need to link my blueprints to my services. I just want to see I'm missing the link to my service. But at the end of the day, what happens is when I look at my services, let me navigate back to my services, you'll notice that media service, um, as as I look at my service hierarchy, you'll notice that it immediately identifies where the probable root cause is of my event. This is a critical event, and this service hierarchy is dynamically built as the system changes within your environment. It also provides you the ability to start looking at your change risk, which we now, as BlueMC, release, which is the Change Risk Advisor. That's one of our agentic agents that is now incorporated into AI Ops. And it actually shows you the changes that might be possible risks to causing um, that occurrence of event that you saw on the media service. Now I can go and analyze this the situation, and what I mentioned earlier about is situations that we identify. So Yaron mentioned about all the um, events, the metrics and topology, for example, from Dynatrace, which is quite critical. We enrich our models using the topology that comes in from Dynatrace, which no other solution at the moment does, which stands out and makes us unique, which means that our models become more mature by incorporating those topologies. What I mentioned about situations, and you'll notice here that these situations are automatically being um, generated. So before in the past, when a event occurred, people will start logging incidents. What the AI Ops solution do now is that it correlates all those events and using AI and machine learning to create what we call a situation. And the situation then creates one incident. So you don't sit with incident sprawl at the end of the day, where your support agents must work through a lot of incidents, trying to understand what each one of them mean. It's causing a delay in time to resolve them. So your mean time to resolve gets affected and so forth. But I can now immediately navigate into this critical event and this situation to see all the events linked to this situation. The the remediation steps over here at the top is what we now automatically incorporate as part of our situations using our solution called Helix GPT. And it immediately gives you a very descriptive explanation of the error, picking it from the event. I can also navigate into the actual metadata of that event that comes from the backend application, for example, Dynatrace or whatever the solution is that's integrated in the application. And I can then go and navigate and see what the probable root cause is. I can I see here that it is a Tomcat error. I navigate into that and I can look at more details. So this detail that you see over here is the actual metadata. So I'm delving in very much detail into what the actual issue is and where the probable root cause might reside. I'm just waiting for this. This is a demo environment, so I'm just waiting for it to refresh, and then I'll show you the metadata. So over here, you'll see that it's an event. The event status is open. Currently, the severity is a critical event. That's why the reason why you'll see it's red. So red and the colors mean specific things. And I can go and look at some of the internal attributes, some of the objects, sources, logs and notes, and other information. I'm not going to go into too much detail in these things, but it shows you the depth that we can go into navigating through into the detail of the situation. All right. Just to go back to what I mentioned about the topology and our discovery. I mentioned something about hybrid environments. Organizations are struggling to look at, to manage hybrid environments across clouds, whether it's AWS or Azure or Alibaba, etc. Now, if we look at our discovery solution that feeds into and feeds the models into the service monitoring console, we have agentless discovery and we discover cross clouds. So you don't have to worry about agents to be deployed. That's a big plus, because now you don't sit with that overhead of maintaining those agents. And the fact that we can discover cross cloud providers becomes quite a unique capability, because now my models gets enriched with all the attributes and all the ephemeral devices that I've procured as an organization on these from these cloud providers. And my dynamic model will update as I onboard more configuration items on my cloud providers. And it also obviously includes on-premise environments. So enabling that hybrid discovery across clouds is quite key for modeling. And you can imagine, if you don't discover something in one of the clouds and there's a business service model that's dependent on one of those items sitting in that provider's environment, it means that I'm missing a key component that can allow me to do probable root cause and identify issues before they occur. I just want to explore some of the data. Just explore some of the data, and I'll show you the services now. So you'll notice that when I spoke about the easy nature and the seamless integration between the solutions, over here you'll see that it says 50 business services, 6 technical services, 11 applications, and 142 model definitions. Now, this obviously is a demo environment, but when I navigate to business services, here's the list of services that I actually created on the AIOps solution and as part of my business service definition. So it's seamlessly synchronized between the applications. I don't have to go and manually create it across all these, across the platform. When I go down to my media service, let me just go see where's my media service. There's my media service. If I navigate to my media service, you'll notice that my media service has got contained software instances, and which brings me to another component that's quite critical, is the CMDB. Now, if we look at the CMDB, all of these models synchronize to my CMDB. We are also able to synchronize to ServiceNow CMDB, which means that we can run in parallel with ServiceNow ITSM. But when we look at the synchronization of these models into the CMDB, you can now relate back to how important it is for the ITSM team when it comes to relating some of these configuration items to changes, to incidents, to problems, to go and do that after the fact problem investigations if we can't identify the problem as part of the ALP solution. Right, and I can obviously do uh, navigate into more detail in these models on our discovery solution. And this discovery solution can be used by multiple personas within the organization. It's it's not just for the people that's doing discovery. You can span the use because you can get very valuable reports out of attributes that's been discovered. For example, your asset management team. Um, and I can go and let's say I can go into there's a specific um, what they call anywhere service modeling. So I can go and let's say let me just see where is that again. Where is it now again? I lost my space, lost my tone. But I can highlight a specific area here, and I can go and say, okay, if I don't want to build my service model from the other side, I can go and highlight a specific area here, which I can then say, this piece over here is what supports the definition of my business service. So there's various entry points. But the primary entry point for building service models is when you go into the service monitoring component to create your service. Right, I think I've switched around a lot. I just want to go back to my slide deck and I want to conclude with what are the advantages of this. Now, when we look at the advantages, we look at alignment of IT with business goals, and that's exactly what I alluded to initially, is that you start involving business in the building of the definition of that service. Obviously, it will allow for improved service delivery, enhanced visibility and transparency. And I think that's something that's lacking because of the siloed nature of organizations. And this is important. We're breaking those silos because we need to start working closer together. Increased efficiency and cost optimization, proactive issue resolution, like I mentioned, better decision making, improved customer satisfaction, compliance and risk management, agility and scalability. I mean, the solution speaks to itself, scalable, agile, and obviously enhanced collaboration. We, as part of our Helix GPT solution, we can start collaborating between teams within the solution, and you can also start collaborating with your reports. Now, if we look at the reports, what I mentioned earlier, if we look at uh, the the service overview dashboard that we have built over here, it's got cross-launch capabilities from here. So when I click on the minor media service and I click on the minor impact, it will navigate me to that service and I can immediately see the analysis, the situations that's been automatically generated over here. I can go and analyze the root cause immediately. If I go back to and I search for the CrowdStrike scenario that I mentioned, let me just go back to where is that service overview? Just search here for CrowdStrike. So there's a Discovery CrowdStrike dashboard. And over here, you can see that these are the business services specifically to CrowdStrike, the host that it's running on, the running software, where does CrowdStrike runs on? It's running on these hosts, and what versions of CrowdStrike are running on here. I can go into much more detail and filter. Um, so, so the point I'm trying to make here is that there are out-of-the-box dashboards, and you can create and customize and configure dashboards to align with the business service definition that you create as an organization. Right, Sam, and I think I'm done with showcasing the easy nature of creating business services.
Okay, I wonder if you could just move to the next few slides. They're more as resource slides, just so I can go through them. We can get to the live Q&A because I know the team have been quite busy answering questions. There's some references slides. There's this first one, which are hyperlinked. We will be sharing the slides today, so you will be able to click on those and it will take you to the different areas that you want to go and look at documentation. We have been running these, Yaron and I, these sessions now for well over a year. So there's all of the past recordings that you can find on BMC Communities. And again, I will be sharing that out when we send the thank you email. Francois, if you can just move to the next slide, I think that should actually give some of the lists. So you can see all the sessions, and obviously soon to be added on there will be Francois's session. And Francois, thank you very much for presenting today. It's been an absolute pleasure working with you and the team over the last few weeks to get this out as a public webinar. We will be sharing the recording with everyone, and hopefully we haven't scared you too much to want to do one again in the future.
No, happy to do that. It's an honor, and thanks for the opportunity.
Great. So other than that, those are the only slides I've got. So I think it's probably a good time for us to move to the Q&A, and I'm going to start unmuting everyone so they can answer us live as well if they do want to speak with us. But I just want to start with a couple of questions that came from Deepak. I could see, Mike, you did start to answer those, and maybe the wider team could help. So Deepak had a question around, he wanted to exclude a few events like CPU memory and some other alerts for impact. So I don't know who would like to answer that from the team. And Deepak, I'm just going to try to see if you're still here. He may have dropped. Is there anyone on the team that can answer that for now?
Yeah, I put the answer in quickly. Ultimately, when the events come into the Helix environment, you can process those events in any way you want. A lot of times I've seen it where an event might come in, we'll just lower the priority of the event so it doesn't actually impact the business service. But on the flip side of that, we would also do notification, whether it's an incident or an email, to the supporting group of that incident. So the event comes in, bit of processing within the event rules in Helix, and then you can do whatever you want with that event. Ultimately, when you look at business services, we're obviously looking at higher level events that will impact that business service. If you lower the priority, for instance, to an info event, it's not going to be impacting that business service, but you can still process that event through notification, through message enrichment, anything you need to do with it. So that would be one way of doing it. That's not the only way. There could be other ways. Really, all you're doing is event processing to match what you want to do, not what BMC might want you to do out of the box. So yeah, event management rules is the way you'd do that.
And just to extend that a little bit, you can also map KPIs to your services in Service Monitor. So where Francois was showing the edit function, you can go into your services and define specific events related to those services. So you may say, we have all these events, but these are the particular ones that mean something to the service. So you can define health indicators, aligned specific events.
Yep.
Thank you, Matt and Mike. Next question that we've got is from Vegard. I don't know if you want to come off mute. I have seen you're still on the call today. He was asking a question. Mike, you were about to answer it. Is Dynatrace the only current supported metrics monitoring provider, or does it also support other tools such as Grafana?
Well, just on that one, and I was typing, but I'm a lot quicker at talking than I am at typing. Sorry. One we built into the solution is Grafana. Those dashboards that you were looking at are Grafana dashboards. As far as metrics, events, and topology ingestion, we have what we call intelligent integrations, which has multiple out-of-the-box integrations. but there's also full API capabilities that you can ingest metrics and events and even topology from literally anywhere. But we have multiple out-of-the-box solutions, Dynatrace being one, AppD, ServiceNow, and the list goes on, SCOM. And for instance, I was on a POV starting Monday, linked to a SCOM environment that I pulled through events, metrics, and topology within maybe the first 30 minutes of getting the POV up and running. But the intelligent integrations documentation, which I will try and dig out in a minute and put into the chat, lists all of the out-of-the-box intelligent integrations. And that can actually run in two ways. Within the Helix environment, we can pull all the SaaS information. So let's say you're running Splunk in SaaS, we can pull all that data. If you have on-prem data, we install an intelligent integrations gateway, which is used to pull all on-prem information, whether it be SNMP alarms or local SCOM information. That can all be done through that intelligent integrations gateway. Hopefully that answers the question. Thank you,
Very
Matt.
nice. Very nice to hear. I remember a couple of years ago, BMC held a presentation in Oslo and about AI ops, and they emphasized that they were going to focus on open telemetry. Is that
Yep.
something you still advocate?
So we do, built into Helix and within the environment that was being shown, we can ingest open telemetry traces directly into Helix. Also, open telemetry can basically create Prometheus data, which can also, so the metrics, for instance, from open telemetry can be ingested into Helix straight through Prometheus. There's a couple of other ways, but that's the way I normally see it. But no, we have an open telemetry receiver built directly in Helix.
That's nice. Thanks.
Anything else while you're there, sir?
No, that was it.
Good. It's been a long time since I've been to Oslo, and I loved it, just to let you know.
Yeah, you should visit.
Okay. We don't have any other questions, but I want to open it up to the floor. If anyone has any questions, either put it in the Q&A or raise your hand. We've got roughly 10 minutes left, otherwise we can finish early. Maybe you might have some questions for Francois.
I see a question.
Hey, Pandy. I can see he's already come off mute. He likes to talk, Mike. Can you hear us, Pandy? Don't know if he's got his audio actually enabled. Do you want to maybe answer it, Mike, if that's a question you can answer?
I'd be interested, is this running through your intelligent integrations within Helix, or are you running it through an on-prem intelligent integrations gateway? The answer is you can turn on debug now. Obviously, if it's in intelligent integrations within Helix, those log files that would be a support case to get the log files to see why you might not be getting data. If it's intelligent integrations on-prem, you can look at the actual log files of that integration and see why you're not getting it. It would be good to take that one offline if you want. I'm more than happy to have a look and see what's going on in your environment.
Thanks, Mike. I think he's got a problem with audio, but I've just put a note in there and I'll connect you both.
Yep, sounds good to me.
Okay. Any more questions? I know normally when I say that, another one will pop up just as I say goodbye. So I just want to give people the opportunity if there's any other questions.